and welcome to View from the Countertop. I am Jennifer Vanderbeek from scrapsoflife.com, and this is episode number 2, now with color culinary commentary. Okay, so we had a big party last weekend, and so we had a lot of leftovers. So Monday night, we used some of the pork from the roast pig to make pulled pork sliders, and we used some of the leftover potato salad as a side. Tuesday, I had planned to turn the Hawaiian chicken legs into Hawaiian chicken salad, but we got some really sucktastic news at work, so let's just be glad I'm not staring at a pint of Ben& Jerry's in this still. Moving on. Okay, so on day 3, Wednesday, the 23rd, I finally got my act back together. The night before, I remembered to take out one of our freezer meals that I'd put out, and that is the beef stir fry. And you see me putting brown rice into our rice cooker. Now, we have determined through much trial and error that the proper ratio for cooking brown rice is 1 cup of brown rice to 2 3/4 cups liquid, be that water, broth, what have you. Sorry for the extreme close-up here. Apparently, I forgot to change the camera angle. And while this is a freezer meal, and so everything was mostly put together, I did have half a head of cabbage left in the fridge, so I decided to go ahead and add that to the stir fry. And it was a really good idea I did because the vegetables, they sounded like a lot, but they cooked down so much that it was nice to have it as an option. Now, because it's the freezer meal, I had kind of the kit already put together. There was a bag with the chopped vegetables in it. There was a bag of the beef that was marinated with a little bit of the sauce. And then there was a separate bag of the sauce, which I'll be adding right now. Yeah, everything was pretty much done. And, just kind of cook it on high heat, let everything cook down. I'll put the lid on it in a little bit and let it simmer for a bit. I know wok cooking is usually high heat very fast, but in a home kitchen, it's just, it doesn't work the same way as it does in a commercial kitchen. So close it, simmer it. Life is good. Now what I'm about to do here is add a slurry of arrowroot and water to thicken up the sauce a little bit, and then it'll be pretty much good to go without too much more to do to it. You just I prefer arrowroot to cornstarch because it's easier to digest for a larger part of the population, and it also thickens without clouding, and it thickens quicker. And so here we go. Here's dinner, and I had added some yummy sauce that I'd made for a couple weeks ago onto the top because while it was perfectly fine on its own, there's nothing that a little yummy sauce can't improve. All right, Thursdays happened to be night before trash night. So we did more leftovers because it was the night we either needed to eat it, toss it, or freeze it. So we have a little bit of everything. We have the chicken, the pork, the leilani salad from earlier, the potato salad, the lomi lomi salmon, a little bit of everything. Okay, Friday. Friday was our experimentation night. After a party, I don't really feel like cooking or planning much, and that was the case this week. I knew we needed to do some sort of seafood or fish during the week, so I picked up a bag of frozen shrimp, and I picked up an eggplant, and I decided to pick up some cellophane noodles, and I figured I'd figure out the rest when the time came. So right now I am peeling the eggplant. You can leave the peel on. The peel is absolutely edible, but some people find it bitter and it can add a very chewy texture. Now, I find it useful to leave the skin on if I need the eggplant to hold its shape and not cook down too much. There are times when that's necessary, but for the eventual curry that I ended up doing here, it was just best to leave the peel off, or take the peel off rather, and then dice it up. Okay, Okay, now actually slicing bell peppers is kind of one of my favorite things now because I've, or has been for a while because I figured out this trick. You slice off the tops but without cutting all the way through. So you see I took the top little section out and then I'll take the core out, usually over the trash can, which you didn't see that part. Slice off the bottom and then I have this tube that I can slice once and it creates this sheet of bell pepper. Makes it very, very easy to deal with. It doesn't roll around on the cutting board as much. It's just an all-around superior way of dealing with bell peppers, in my not so humble opinion. But I'm dicing things up to about an inch or so. Um, this dish is gonna simmer a little bit, so precise size isn't important, but you do want everything about the same general size. Otherwise, it doesn't cook as quickly or as evenly, I should say. Now, I am cubing up the eggplant here. Now, usually what you would do with eggplant is that you would, prep it however you're going to do, salt it pretty well, and then put it in a colander with a plate on top and like canned goods or some other weight on top of the plate to press the eggplant down. And the theory is that the salt draws out the liquid, which draws out the bitterness. I was lazy. I didn't do that. Oh, there's Todd. He was having to reset the water heater. And there I am pouring hot water over the cellophane noodles. I love cellophane noodles because they cook quickly, pretty much just with hot water. So you don't have to do a lot to them. You don't have to heat up the kitchen. They're perfect for summer. So into the saucepan or frying pan there with the olive oil and garlic oil, I've added the bell pepper and the eggplant. And I'm going to saute that a little bit until the bell pepper starts to soften and the eggplant browns a little on the edges. And now I'm adding some Thai red curry paste. This is like the Thai Kitchen brand is what we use. I thought I had green around. I really do prefer the green, but all I could find was the red, so I used the red. And I'm going to stir that in. And then, oh man, if you have not tried the tubes of like the lemongrass puree and the other things, they seriously make making dinner so much simpler. So I had added lemongrass, basil, ginger, and now a can of coconut milk. And I'm going to stir all of that together and let it cook for a bit. And then I'm going to add my shrimp, the important part. Now, shrimp, it's really easy to overcook, so I tend to let it cook on the heat for a little bit and then turn it off and let the sauce or whatever carry over cook, which is what I've done here. And now I am straining out those cellophane noodles with a pasta scoop, which really is the best tool for this job because otherwise those tiny, tiny little noodles will just, they'll scoot through the holes of a colander or something. So this worked really well. You want to stir that in with the sauce and just make sure it's all nice and well distributed. And there's dinner. This was so good. In fact, it was so good, I wrote down the recipe, and it's on the blog post that'll be linked down below. Okay, so Saturday was a late supper, and I know it looks like I'm dishing out pans of dog food. It's corned beef hash. We don't eat it very often, but occasionally it's nice for those comfort food nights. It was, we had been working on different things and kind of bumming around the house, so breakfast for dinner, breakfast for dinner was a good option. Now I made a well in the corned beef hash in each of the little omelet pans, and I cracked 2 eggs in, and you saw the single-handed crack there. It doesn't look pretty, but man, was it tasty. Now, Sunday, I really didn't have anything planned. We weren't doing anything with the family, so I grabbed another freezer meal. This is the zuppa toscana. It's supposed to be a copycat recipe from Olive Garden. And even though it's meant to go in the crock pot, there's nothing that says you can't thaw it out and cook it on the stove or put a freezer meal in the oven. And so that's what we did. I wasn't awake long enough to really deal with the whole crock pot thing for 6 hours. But that's it. That's our menu from last week. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe got some inspiration. And like I said, check out the link in the section below this video on YouTube to get the recipe for that shrimp and eggplant curry.